Hi, everyone, and welcome to our third chapter of our new gift retail playbook series with gifts and decorative accessories. Today, we're talking about first steps to an omni-channel strategy, and we've got a wonderful panel joining us today. I'll introduce you around because we've got a very information-rich panel today. We have Renee Loper-Boyd from International Market Centers. She's a VP of Marketing at IMC, overseeing Atlanta market, Las Vegas market, and High Point market. We also have John Toller, CEO of Evergreen Enterprises, and he has a unique perspective of talking to us about both B2B side as a manufacturer, as well as the B2C side as a retailer. So we're very happy to have you today, John, as well, with a very festive background. We love it. And then, of course, we have Mary Liz Curtin, co-owner of Leon and Lulu in Michigan and internationally recognized retail expert. I'm sure you have seen her in other panels as well because she brings a lot of great retail expertise. And then we also have Bob Negan, founder of Whizbang Retail Training and author, public speaker, retail expert, another wonderful resource to have with us today. So thank you all for joining us. So we'll jump right into our questions. So first, I think we hear the word omni-channel strategy, omni-channel, and sometimes that word almost means nothing anymore to us because we use it so much and it can mean unlimited number of possibilities. So let's just kind of go around a little bit and talk about what each of you, specifically for your business, what each platforms or touch points do you use to conduct your business and communicate your message across multiple platforms? Renee, we'll start with you just because you're in the row on my screen.
Sure. Thanks. We try and be everywhere where our customers are, whether they're buyers or sellers. And so when you think about that, as a marketer, that's everything from our website to social media to we have an in-house call center that is reaching out. We have inbound customer service, and then a paid marketing program as well in both print and digital. So we really try and look at all of those touch points and utilize those in our marketing.
Awesome. And John, I know you might have a longer answer because you might have it on B2B and something different for B2C, but what different platforms or channels do you guys use at Evergreen?
Yeah, sure. For our B2B business, Evergreen, I would say there's, three primary ones. First is our showrooms that we have like in Atlanta. We employ we have full-time sales force, right? So that's another one we go to market with. And then we call it our B2B website, our online resource center. And I think retailers use all three to get educated on our products. They may, get educated in one and purchase in another, right? Hence the omni-channel. So those are kind of the three big ones. And then our online resource center, our B2B site, is supported by social media, is supported by email marketing, and kind of digital catalogs and those kinds of things. But retailers tend to engage with us on all three many times, and one or all three, and then convert purchase in one of the three. And then I think in our retail business, and our retail business brand is called Plow and Hearth. For those of you who know it, we operate physical retail stores, and we have a great B2C website. But the vast majority, I shouldn't say vast, about half of the business is still reliant on a mailed catalog that arrives in your home, 6, 7, 8 times a year under the banner of Plow and Hearth. And that end consumer is, either they're interacting in the physical stores, or they're interacting on the website, maybe through a product listing or a social media kind of marketing approach, or they're getting the catalog. And so educating the end consumer across all of them, and they may end up converting on one of 4 or 5 different ways.
Okay, awesome. And then Mary Liz, what different platforms or ways are you engaging with your customers?
Well, we continue to have, the retail store, of course, that's the big one. We continue to have a strong social presence. We do a lot still with Facebook. We're getting better and better at promoting our events and making reservations for them. For us, we did an analysis about what we really sell. And what we sell isn't the sofas and the dresses and the hats and the stuff that shoots confetti and whatever junk we've got in here. We sell happiness, we sell an experience, which is why we have the store, and we now have a restaurant as well, so that when you come shopping with us, you can have a fabulous glass of wine, a delicious dinner, and shop, and it makes it a total destination. But we drive people to the store with our social media. We drive to them with our email marketing is our strongest form of marketing. We have a great conversion rate on that and a wonderful open rate. We've got close to 40,000 clean names on the list, and another 12,000 for the restaurant. So that really has made it the best way for us to contact our customers. We have never done a print catalog because we're cheap and disorganized.
Don't sell yourself short, Mary Liz. Don't do that.
I am cheap.
Well, that's just one of the challenges. We'll get to challenges too. But before I move on, I do love that you mentioned that you also have a different listserv for each e-blast. So you have one for the store, and then you have a different listserv and a different type of e-blast for your cafe as well. So
they always relate to each other, because although they're two totally separate businesses and they're run independently, they're still part of one family and it's one destination. So we will offer, if we have an event here in the evening, we suggest they make reservations next door. If we've got something going on next door, we tell them, for instance, if we have a wine tasting event or a special dinner, we drag a bunch of merchandise from the big store to the little store, and we move stuff to the people who came for dinner. So the combination works. But our business is that of delighting the customer. So we have to find every way we can to make her smile. When we opened, we had little girls on roller skates who'd skate around and serve hot cookies and coffee. But now we can't find any kids who can skate, and the health department shut us down for our popcorn business that was, horrible. So it's always, how can we amuse them? And we must keep the two businesses separate, because some people don't care about the gifts and other people don't care about the restaurant. They should, though.
Yeah. But I love that, to help fuse and drive, from one to the other and just make a more total experience. That's really cool. And then
we're like a really fancy Cracker Barrel, basically.
And then Bob, I know you're constantly giving tips on other channel that retailers can use, but then for your business itself of Whiz Bang Retailing, you guys are on a lot of different touch points as well. So tell us a little bit about where all you guys are.
Sure. So, we're in the business of helping retailers become more successful, build better lives, all those things. And our primary channels are, we send to everybody who's on our email list, and I couldn't agree with Mary Liz more. We send twice a week at least content that is applicable. And on Wednesdays, we send a tip of the week, which is text. And on Sundays, I do a weekly video blog called Real Retail TV. And those are intended to be gives, right? This is us making the case that we know what we're talking about and we can help them. We're also very, very committed to live social media. At least once a week on Wednesdays, we come on. It's not always us, but it's usually us. So every Wednesday we do something for at least an hour, and then it's interspersed with big events. Recently we had our 23rd anniversary. So we did a 3-hour live. We give away a bunch of stuff. We have a lot of fun, and that's how we do it. And of course, everything is supported by social media. So, social media, I don't really see it as a strategy. I just see it as a reinforcement. It's just what we use to reinforce the content that we're giving out there. That's the high quality content that builds the credibility that we're looking for us to have the impact that we want to have.
I love it. And I also love your website too. You guys are always posting blogs and video content, and you make your website really engaging by knowing that content is king. That's what we're going to preach over at GDA.
Content is king. Well, for everybody, until you build the trust, you can't expect to ask them to do anything. And so just to sort of expand on that, Omnichannel is important, but, social media isn't a strategy. Email marketing isn't a strategy. Facebook Lives aren't a strategy. Those are just ways to
They're
put your
tools.
strategy into work in the world. So social media, Mary Liz, what she's doing is just reinforcing how cool her business is. So the strategy is, we're cool, you're going to love being here. The social media, email marketing are merely the vehicles to bring that message to the world.
Absolutely. And then speaking
May I
of
add one thing about
yeah, go ahead.
the email marketing? We do a tremendous amount of targeted email marketing. We can, if you happen to be a size 8 and you like black dresses, or you like a certain vendor, we can let you know when that is in. I can send an email to only the women who wear size small, only who buy this vendor. And that's stuff that they're dying to know. And we have discovered that it takes a lot of the noise away from the other customers when we target it carefully. Bob might not care that we just got in 3 black dresses in a size small, because I don't think he is a size small. So we would only send that to
And I
people
don't
who
wear
really want it.
dresses.
Often.
Yeah.
But it has made a huge difference, because they get it. It's something they want to know. And I can increase the frequency, because we can't mail to them too often, or you fatigue the buyer. You can't keep slinging stuff at them too often unless you've got you must have a message for every email. Thanksgiving, I was going crazy at home, deleting emails from vendors. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. I don't have time for that.
Yes.
Say something.
Sorry. So I think I kind of want to chat a little bit more about email marketing, because I think it's something we don't specifically cover enough, honestly, on our end. So let's talk a little bit more about any sort of tips or advice you have when it comes to email marketing, both in frequency and if there are tools that you're using to help, or platforms you're using to help, like Mary Liz, as far as how does that targeting work? Like, if you want to talk a little bit more of the background of such a strategy, I would love to do that.
Well, we use the strategy a lot in fashion goods. If we get a shipment in from, say, Alembica, big line for us, we write to all the Alembica customers and tell them it's here, come and get it, because it's always a limited size run. Obviously, Christmas is open, that kind of stuff has to go to everyone, but the things that are targeted are generally vendor specific. And the thing that is the most helpful to us is if we can get good assets from our vendors with good photography, because if I've got a good picture of that dress that comes in, I can smack that on I can sell it online, I can get it up quickly. If I have to do my own photography, it slows us down a lot. So that's a big thing for us, is to have that kind of backup from our vendors. But always we think about, who are we talking to and what do we have to say to them? And do we have something to say? And if we can make them laugh, that absolutely pays off.
And then
Can I chime in?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and I think that this is a bigger strategic issue also. So when Covey wrote the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he introduced this concept of the emotional bank account. And so when I think of email marketing, particularly email marketing, social media, not so much, because it's sort of temporal, but email marketing sits in the email box, as Mary Liz said, all of a sudden you're overwhelmed. So Covey contends that for every withdrawal from an emotional bank account, you need to make 10 deposits. And so anytime you're pitching something, I consider that a withdrawal. Anytime you're giving somebody some information that's good to them, that's relevant, that's helpful, that's interesting, if you can make them laugh, that's a deposit. So here at WizBank Training, when we talk to our clients, we're very, very aware of how much are we giving, so that we don't, just like a regular bank account in your, at a financial institution, the more deposits you make, the more withdrawals you can make. So when you talked about frequency, I don't think the question is really how much you can send. The question is, how interesting can it be? Because if Mary Liz can write cool, fun, interesting emails if they're cool and fun and interesting, she can send 3 times a day. you got to create those cool fun, but it's so the question is not really frequency. The question is, how interesting can it be? Is it a deposit? So I think that that's sort of an overarching thing. People ask tactical questions when the strategic question is, am I adding value to the relationship?
Absolutely. Really good point. And I know there are tools to help with that too. Like we use subject line checkers to see what the grade is to increase those opens. Anything that's a little bit shorter, make sure it can show up on mobile and not just look great on desktop. I know emojis often help, with open rates as well. So we could have this whole webinar just about email marketing, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll second that, Lenise. Just trying different things as you're measuring and looking at email engagement. But yeah, subject lines, time sensitive subject lines are also good, especially if it's sale driven, things like that. We use also pre-headers as a way to communicate too. So, but yeah, and then day and time part testing. If you don't know what your sweet spot is, that's something to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had actually brought up something really interesting before the webinar went live about trying to make sure you don't have to compete with too much noise when it comes with eBlast. So if you want to chat a little bit about that, because that was really interesting. You brought up kind of a challenge to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time in email performance as well as our paid digital and social. The holidays are a busy time, as we know, both in retail, but in our personal lives. And there's a lot of people paying and bidding on search terms and things like that to promote sales. So, and like you were saying, Mary Liz, I think you got 1 million emails on Thanksgiving Day, right? And elections cause a lot of emails and things like that. And so I think we just have to recognize, put ourselves in our customer shoes, right? We're all getting bombarded. So making sure that you're delivering good content and then making it engaging and appealing to open too.
Yeah, and stand out from that barrage of emails I know we all get. Well, I'll move on to our next question. We were going to talk about, our voice and our different messages. So you've got different social media channels. You've got our e-marketing, you've got our website. There's so many different touch points that we have. How do you alter the message for each one, but still stay on brand? Because I think that's kind of hard to do when you think about it. John, do you want to kick this one off and just talk about how the message might change over each platform?
I think
stay consistent.
On our B2B side, I can't specifically think of a lot of deviation in terms of how we would, let's call it, present products to retailers, in different mediums. Obviously, a showroom environment, you're going to see a lot of the products. We do email segmentation, which is what Mary Liz talked about. We talk to our Canadian retailers different than our U.S. retailers. We present different products. So if you're kind of confined to just a few items, we will segment out and talk to our sports retailers different than we talk to our garden centers, right? And the salespeople, when they're talking to B2B environment, do a lot of curating of the product in advance of the appointment based on the retailer, what they've purchased, where they are. Bob and I were talking, if we were coming in and we'd be talking about, maybe Michigan goods, Michigan State, we try to curate in advance. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think on our retail stores, we do a little bit. We've got a Williamsburg store, maybe it's got a little bit more coastal than our Charlottesville store. Those kinds of. There's some other changes and maybe slight changes in assortment. Catalog, we don't do a lot of variation in terms of regional assortment, depending on where you live in the country, in terms of what you see in the catalog. And we don't do a ton within the email in terms of changing up the message, try to do some of the segmentation you're talking about, if you bought a fire screen, here's some fire starter, those kinds of things, right? Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Bob, do you want to take it all as well?
Sure. I think that, again, let's go up a step, and really the opportunity, especially for independent retailers, is to be authentic. You know, the only person, so the minute that you try to copy a big brand is the minute that you're screwed, because they have the resources, they have everything. So the number one competitive advantage that any independent retailer has is the ability to be authentic. And so, you know, I think that the question is less, how do I show up on the different channels, and more, how do I show up as my best self? I'll share a quick story. So we had a client who had a quilt store, and a lot of quilt stores were doing social media live. And she said, oh, but they're all so enthusiastic and they're all so bubbly. And the way that I approach quilting is I'm very visceral. You know, I'm very sort of intellectual. I look at quilting as an intellectual, creative exercise. And so I just said, Jan, that's how you should be. Talk on your social media lives like you would talk to a friend, like you would talk to somebody who was in your store. And as soon as she embraced who she was and the fact that what she was doing was enough, all of a sudden she built a huge audience almost immediately. Two birds of a feather flock together. And if you're your best self and that's how you're showing up, you know, the tactics kind of take care of themselves. You'll show up that way on the different channels. But I think the opportunity is to show up as your best self, show up in your authentic voice, and then the rest of it all sorts to fall in place. I think that sometimes people worry too much about, you know, they read an article about this is how you should post here, this is how you should post there. And I'm not saying that's incorrect, but I think that strategically just being your best self and using your authentic voice is the way that you want to show up. Because when you do that, you're going to attract the people who are going to be your best customers. And now that we're talking about, you know, omni-channel, then those best customers are going to buy from you the way that you sell, because they like you as a person and they like you as your brand and what you represent.
And I love that you mentioned, and like you said, taking it a step above before you can decide what your message is going to be on each platform is figuring out what your brand identity is first.
Right. Who are you?
Yeah.
Once you get that straight, then everything, like I said, you know, tactics follow strategy. And too many times retailers, because, you know, especially small to mid-size independent retailers, they typically get to a level of success because they're working hard and they got personality, you know, they're doing the deal, they're out there hustling. But then at some level you start bumping into a wall and the tactics start to become less effective and become more work. So when you think strategically, the beauty of a strategy is that everything sort of follows from it. And strategy can be pretty simple, you know, show up as your best self. Originality, authenticity, personality, you know, caring, integrity, all of those things are the things that matter.
Right. So Mary Liz, I want
And our customers really want to relate to us. Our customers want to get to know us. They want to, you know, I get a lot of people come in and say things like, well, I was talking to Leon the other day. I say, well, that's interesting because first of all, he was a cat, and second of all, he's dead. So I don't think you were talking to Leon. But that's people perfect. really do want to know who we are. They make friends with our staff. And when an independent retailer sells you something, a dress for a party or a wedding gift, you're part of that celebration. You're part of my whole experience. Going to the wedding is getting ready and talking about what I'm going to bring and what I'm going to wear. And we bring something to it that they're not going to get at the chain stores.
Yes,
and that has to be expressed across every channel.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say that nobody, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, but Mary Liz, you know, they do that. She does that. They do that so incredibly well. And, you know, and it's a perfect example of a competitive advantage that comes from being authentic, that comes from being original, that shows a personality.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I want to tee this up, or Mary Liz, to you again, just to say, you know, you talk about being authentic, be your authentic self. Mary Liz, your store has such a strong brand identity, just like you were talking about in the cafe as well. What homework did you do to decide, like, like, oh, this is who we are, this is our brand, this is our voice, these are the words that we use? Like, was there any sort of setup as far as how did you define who you were, I guess, as a store?
We've been in the business for a long time, and when we opened this store, it was supposed to be furniture and gifts, which was a good start. And we didn't know much about furniture, but we knew a lot about gifts, and we had an exit plan in case we failed, which I think is the first thing you should do when you're opening a store. But it has evolved largely because what we do is delight our customer. And when I go to market, I'm not looking for stuff that I like. I'm looking for stuff that our customers are going to love, things that are going to make them happy. If I see another dish towel with some stupid saying on it, I mean, I could very happily just never see one again. But our customers are thrilled, so we continue to buy them. And we continue to come up with things that are fun and silly. We love buying vintage pieces. In fact, our Christmas window this year has a sign in it that we trash picked after the Brown Baggett lingerie shop down the street closed. And the Brown Baggett sold a lot more than lingerie. Nobody's going to remember it except the old timers, but we do have a porno sign in our Christmas window, and it looks just fabulous. Pictures will be out soon. But we're willing to take a risk. We're willing to try peculiar product. We're willing to try vendors. We set aside money to shop with emerging vendors, even though we know it's going to be difficult. We might not get the stuff or whatever, because somebody has to get them going. And I think all of that reflects on our relationships with our customers. And special events has been a huge part of our marketing. We do a girls' night out once a month. Oh boy, I just got more power. We do a girls' night out once a month. We do, what else do we do, John? Oh, 4 times a year we have a artist market where we show independent artists in here. So we'll have 25 or 30 craftspeople in the store on top of all the stuff that we already have in the store. We do books and authors twice a year where we invite local authors to sell their work. For our birthday, we used to do an event called Let Them Eat Cake, which was a pro-am baking competition. And we'd have people come in and you could taste the stuff, and sometimes you could buy it. But all of these things build up the relationship with the customers and give them something fun to do. And then this month, we do Giving Saturdays, and 10% of our sales on every Saturday in December go to a different charity. The charity helps promote us because we're helping them. So all of these things are how we've built the personality of this place. And we don't say no to much. We had a fashion show and dog adoption combo once where you could either buy the dress or adopt the dog. We've done a lot of weird stuff here.
I love it.
But Mary Liz, may I contend to you that really all you did was who you are found its way into who you, into your brand. And so Lenise, to your question, how do you do that? I think that it's not an intellectual exercise as much as it is a discovery. And, so I had a kite business for 19 years, turned into a toy business. But, the brand it just was an extension of ourselves, just as all of these things are an extension of Mary Liz. And I think that if you think of it more, just who am I when I'm at my best? And then that just becomes who your brand will be, assuming that you just allow it to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's part of all that experience. Customers are buying you just as much as they're buying at the store, the full personality and experience. Yeah. Yeah. So Renee, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because as VP of marketing for IMC, you've got IMC as like this parent brand, but then you have Atlanta market, Las Vegas market, High Point market, all with distinct identities and brands. And I know some retailers struggle with that too, where they have different but multiple stores. So I'm curious what your point of view is on how do you handle that messaging with different brands underneath the parent brand?
Yeah, well, we do a lot of research and surveying of our customers, whether again, that's buyers or sellers. So we use that to help inform our strategy and our messaging. And then for example, each of the markets that you just mentioned are inherently a little unique and different. So they might have a different product mix that will change the composition of what we're talking about. So, you know, I would say a couple things there, like do surveys, or even, you know, sometimes those can be a little laborious or even scary to execute. You could do social media polls, or just a quick, like in an email, a ranking of what's your top, you know, favorite products or categories. So just whatever you can do to find out more about your customers and what they want. And then listen to that and use that to help inform your strategies. And then there might be something specific to, you know, for us, it's the amazing resources that you can find in each city are unique and help us formulate what we talk about. But there may be things in the local neighborhood or geographically that might set someone's messaging apart.
Awesome. And then just a quick reminder to our audience, because I forgot to mention, if you do have a question for any of our panelists, you can submit it in the Q&A function right there. And at the end of the webinar, we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. But if you have a specific question, please feel free to type it in and to ask, and we'll try to answer it live. So I'm also curious what the main challenges are in growing in a new channel. And then sorry, what are your main challenges in growing your business in a new or different channel? And then how you've addressed those challenges that you've run into in trying to grow into a new channel. John, do you want to kick that one off?
Yeah, I think sure. In probably the new channel we've all really leaned into broadly with COVID is, I'm going to call it a digital channel, right? Mobility was impaired. We're trying to do outreach, engage our end consumers or our retailers. And I think when you leaned into that digital channel, there's two things. You know, obviously the photo shoot, like the setup you see now, you know, this was not something we would have done prior to the live streaming, the live selling. I think Bob talked about, Mary Liz. We've seen a lot of success with that in the B2B environment too. So I think but I think the other thing that's probably been more troublesome is, let's call it all the digital assets related to deploying a social media or an email or talking, you know, talking to the end consumers or the retailers about it. And we've recently gone with a PIM system, a product information system. There's a couple out there that you can acquire. We went with one called In River. Salsify is another one. And these are essentially repositories for all of the digital assets needed to support email, social media, commerce, whatever you may be doing. And it stores there. It helps you, clean up the data, and it helps what we call syndicate, get it out to these different platforms. And so it's good. I would, and Mary Liz, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Bob, you've got some experience here, but I probably one of the struggles I would think for many of our independent retailers, just getting the assets to deploy and get it out there to do it from their vendors, if they aren't doing it themselves.
That is a huge thing for us, is to get those assets. Building our website, it has taken us 3 expensive launches to get an e-commerce enabled website, and we've finally been able to do it, which is a service to our customers who can't get here. And we do pick up some new people from it, but it's not our business, and it is a completely different business from a retail store. It's not the same thing. So we continue to improve it, but I would love to have, I'm very anxious to find out about those 2 services we just mentioned. I'd like to have a better way of controlling all these things, because it's frustrating. We've been using Constant Contact for years.
Sure.
They have been very, very easy to work with. And then we've got a pretty good library of our own content that we do. We do a lot of videos. We have Leon and Lulu TV on YouTube, and we continue to plug out that stuff. And we generally find if we leave them laughing, they as soon as they start to laugh, their mouths open, their handbags open, the money comes out. It's fabulous.
Bob, any tips to add?
So I'd like to shift the conversation just a bit, if I could. So really what we're talking about here is omni-channel, but channel implies how you're selling something. And I don't think people like to be sold. I think they like to experience, I'm hearing that from from everyone else also. So when I was thinking about this whole thing, I coined a term. It's called omni-experiential. And so when you think of how you're doing business, rather than thinking of how am I selling to my customer, think of how my customers are experiencing my brand. So it's gone from the store being the focus of the brand to all of the experiences, that all the different ways that somebody experiences your brand. I think that when you talk about growing other channels, it all sort of fits under there. So social media isn't a strategy. An e-commerce website isn't a strategy. So really, when we think about the opportunities, especially for independents, it's how do I create a lot of different ways for my customers to experience my brand? How do I add consistency, brand consistency to all of these experiences? And when you do that, I think, again, that strategy being omni-experiential, everything starts to take care of itself. So when Plow and Hearth makes a catalog, when somebody goes there, they feel the same way they feel the same as if they were to go onto the website. And so I think that that's really, it's just, I understand it wasn't directly an answer to your question, but I think it's an important way for people to look at it, because people don't like, I teach sales training too, right? I teach sales training too. And every other sales trainer talks about how to make the best sale, but that always drove me crazy, because your customer doesn't care about you making a sale. They care about how they buy. So I changed it from a great sale to the perfect purchase, because the perfect purchase implies the benefit to the customer. And when you think about omni-channel, that's like, oh yeah, this is how we're going to sell to our customers. And I'm asking everybody who's watching this to flip it on its head, to everything that everybody on the panel is saying. It's not about us, it's about them. And if you flip it on its head and say, so another term that I created was WWMCW. What would my customer want? And so if you start asking that question and put it in the context, I'm sorry, I use my hand a lot. So, and you put it in the context of omni-experiential, I think that when you add a new channel, it sort of organically grows, because you've built the relationship with your customers in such a way that if they're there, they will naturally go there because you're already there. Rather than saying, I'm going to do this new thing, I need to get people there. Say, I'm going to do this new thing. How do I get the people who already are there, but are part of my community there? And then the growth becomes organic.
Absolutely. And then Renee, I know, oh, go ahead.
One of the things that when I work with the kids in our marketing department, we insist on limited use of the first person in any marketing pieces. It's not, we have this, it's, you're going to love this. We turn everything to start with the customer. We consistently think outside in, not inside out. It's not what's good for me, it's what's good for that lady. And Marshall Field, I think, summarized it better than anybody, because he just said, retail's simple. Give the lady what she wants. And that's what we endeavor to do. And, like this week, 3 or 4 men, but is to give the lady what she wants, that she doesn't even know she wants. But if you start to think of it that way, you build the friendships and you aren't viewed as somebody who's just jamming those shoes down her throat.
And Renee, I know IMC had to really start thinking about what its customer, the retailers needed, especially during the pandemic. So you guys have had a lot of growth in that segment. So why don't you chat about how you guys use omni-channel strategy and different platforms to communicate with your customers, not just at market time, but now year round?
Exactly. We all had to innovate and think about the way we do our business differently during the pandemic. And it's been really good. And I think You know, it brought an agility to our team. It made us even more focused on what the customer wants and needs and how to serve that. So I think those are things that will always continue to be a part of our value system now. But, you know, markets are unique in that we're connecting buyers and sellers, and it's where you get the best immersive product sourcing experience. It's where you can network, make new relationships, be inspired, maybe learn something new to take back to your store. And, you know, so it's really this magical place where this all happens, and there's nothing like it. But we want to make sure that we're continuing to share and promote the market experience to not only the folks that know us and know how amazing market is firsthand, but also to new entrepreneurs, new businesses, new vendors. Mary Liz talked about how she allocates a certain portion of her spend to support those emerging resources. And so, so we use a very broad marketing program to bring buyers to market, both those who are familiar with market, but also not yet familiar. And then, you know, one of our biggest assets are our team and our team members, whether it's our call center team that's proactively reaching out and speaking to folks every day, our internal team members working with our vendors and showrooms, and then also our showroom customers, John, like you, and what your team is doing and saying about market, and Mary Liz, how you're sharing the story of market with other retailers too. And so these are all things we're cognizant of, and we build into our marketing plan. But we do have a very robust paid digital marketing plan that helps us reach and prospect new folks. We did do a lot of new things, tried a lot of new things during the pandemic, especially when, you know, free vaccine or when travel was very much affected. And so things like a digital show house, and, you know, we were lucky to hold markets during the pandemic and the very difficult days of the pandemic, because we owned our buildings and could operate them safely. But there are many things that we tried and learned from and continue to be a part of our strategy today. We have a product spotlight program we started called Market Snapshot, which highlights products leading up to market. And we feature 5 different products every week in all of our cities. And that at the end of it, we ask people to vote for their favorite. And so it's a way to show all the amazing products at a market, and then creates engagement with our audience and excitement just before market.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a great kind of little case study example, because I know you send it out in an e-blast, you send us a press release about Market Snapshot, you reinforce it on social media, and then you also have a presence of it and signs for it at market too. So that's a great example of how, like, at least on 3 different channels for that one new program to communicate that message. So that's a great example.
Yeah, and then, you know, markets are difficult because you're trying to do a lot in a short period of time. So our pre-market planning tools are really important. So our market website and our exhibitor directory that you can search and find products you want to see, and even prospect new brands even before you arrive at a market. Those are really important. And then just helping folks get around in our app. We do have our own apps in each city. And so, and then, you know, our website is an important tool we talked about sort of during market, but year round to view resources available, or if someone's searching for specific products. So those are all tools that help make the experience a little easier.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about Gen Z and social media. So let me make sure I get this right, because we had a little stat, just our own BridgeTower Media research team showed that by 2030, Gen Z which is someone born between 1995 and 2012. They will account for 48% of all consumers. So finally, we're done talking about millennials, because I think I heard millennial. So finally, it's Gen Z's turn. I'm off the clock to talk about Gen Z consumers. And so 49% of the respondents said that social media was their primary influence for their purchase decisions. I know specifically TikTok is a huge influencer when it comes to purchasing decisions. So with that said, it is certain that the future consumer path to purchase is likely to include a variety of touch points in digital and the physical environments, but particularly social media and those different platforms. So in y'all's opinion, what are the biggest challenges in expanding to those new platforms, particularly in capturing Gen Z's attention? It's a big question. Whoever wants to take it away
I'll
first.
start, because and I have 2 Gen Z children, so I can speak to this. I mean, again, it goes to authenticity. People want to buy from people they know, they like, they trust, and so let's go back to this original premise, and not everybody has to agree with it. But, if you're showing up as your best self and you're talking about things that matter to them, they will be attracted. Things like social missions, that's really important to my boys. They also are big researchers. So they may see something on a TikTok video, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they're not going to buy it until they've done more research. I mean, I bought a Japanese knife, and my son he knows more about why does anybody need to know that much about Japanese knives? But they grew up in a generation where that information is all there. So if you're a retailer, you better know your stuff. And the fact that you know your stuff better come through on your social media channels. So TikTok is merely an entree into something else. But again, it goes back to authenticity, integrity. If I was selling gear, which is what my boys like, they both live in Montana and ski, there needs to be social proof. There needs to be, I know what I'm talking about because I do this thing. I am this way. To Renee's point, when she's marketing it just needs to come out that, wow, this place is great. I need to be there. So social proof is merely what's happening with all of this. And Gen Z is all about, that's what social media is all about. It's social proof, right? Fear of missing out. Everybody else likes this. I like this. So, I just keep coming back to the strategy of, I'm a great resource. You'll know me, like me, trust me. I'm a great resource for you. I have great integrity. They'll buy from you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. I think there can also be some tactical challenges though, too.
Of course.
With the changing algorithms and new functionality on platforms. So, those are things that it's hard to keep up with. We're lucky we have a team and also an external agency that helps us with that. But there are things like I subscribe to a newsletter, Social Media Today, that kind of just shares when there's a new feature out, or Instagram Reels or algorithm changes. So, and I would say, when new features like that come out, sometimes it can be scary. You think you have to do it perfect the first time, but just try it. Give it a try. And our team relies on Reels a lot now. And I think that was just something that we had internal dialogue about, like, does it have to be perfect or highly produced? But, I think in the world we live in, with new things coming out all the time, just give it a try, see what it does for you, with a strategy in place, but try these new tactics and see what it can do for you.
One of the, none of this stuff lasts very long, so it doesn't have to be perfect, because they're not going to see, it's up for 20 minutes and then it's on to something else. So it's not production values can be a little bit more casual.
Can I share something real quickly? And I don't mean to talk too much. I apologize, but I think this is important in this conversation is this idea that of social media. Now, we're talking about Gen Z, and Gen Z rarely opens an email. I understand that that's part of the problem when we have this conversation. But to Mary Liz's point, her email marketing is her most important thing. And for most independent retailers, let's exclude Gen Z here, email marketing is still the #1 marketing tool. And so, and there's a difference between a social media follower and somebody who is actually giving you their email address. So a social media follower, in my opinion, is almost a vanity metric, because at the end of the day, a social media relationship, a follow, is merely a rented relationship. You know, what they said is, I am interested in you. But if somebody gives you a phone number for text messaging, an email, so you can email to them, a physical address, what they're doing is they're figuratively raising their hand and saying, yes, I can market to you. So when I teach social media marketing, it's like, look, the name of the game is to convert the follower into an email address. You know, there's nothing more frustrating than building a community on social media and then having to pay more and more and more to reach a community that you've built for them. So, you know, so you have free giveaways, you have bribes, you have, you know, find a way. There's lots of tactics to do that. But I think that that's something that when I talk to retailers is missed. Oh, I've got this big social media following, and that's wonderful. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, it's rented. It's not owned. So.
Right.
Yeah, Lanice, I was looking at, just in advance of this, like we run pretty good attribution models related to where the end consumer comes and converts. Social media for us is still like 1 or 2%. I think it's an area that's gotten way too much focus around. It's kind of the hot, but at the end of the day, you know, at least for our businesses across all of them, B2B, it's you know, it's an education piece. I think that maybe convert another channel. I think I would counsel retailers to be careful about over-investing in this, or if you're going to make a significant investment in this, have the ability to do the attribution in terms of what's this actually mean to you in terms of retail, in terms of dollars or people through the door. You know, it's kind of my take. I do think it provides all of us the ability to maybe acquire a younger customer who is not maybe reading that Plow and Hearth catalog or walking into our stores, but will convert on social media. I think that there's probably the opportunity for us. I will tell you, you know, in our business, a decorative flag spans all kinds of demographics, but the Zulily end consumer is certainly younger, and that's where they're converting to buy that snowman flag. Whereas we do Mary and Michelle and some other names to talk about kind of the different customer demographics where they convert. And I think the final thing as it relates to kind of B2B buying, the Wayfair buyers act entirely different than let's call it the buyers that are over 40, and they prefer spreadsheets, digital, those kinds of things, maybe less of the face-to-face. And so I think you're seeing that B2C behavior also kind of show up in the B2B. And I just think of Wayfair because I think most of that buying crew is under the age of 40, maybe under 30.
Yeah. Very good. Mary Liz, are there any new platforms that you've taken on to appeal to a younger consumer? Is that not on your radar at all?
No,
Need it?
we do
Challenge?
play with all different kinds of TikTok platforms. We've done TikTok Reels. We've done all that. I don't know that we've done it all, but we've certainly tried. It's hard to measure. We don't really know what the response is. But generally, if we have some message that we want to get out or a story we want to tell, we'll try it in several places. And we don't analyze the results as carefully as perhaps we should. I don't know how we would. So we just take the anecdotal, yeah, 3 people mentioned it, must have been pretty good. And we can kind of get a feeling from it. So we do give it a shot. But what we're interested in doing with our customers is building a lasting relationship where they want to hear from us. They want to come to our parties. They want to know what we're doing. They want to hear that there's a new dog, all that stuff. And one of the other things that's been part of our marketing that's been really important is the things that we give to charities. Every silent auction gets something from us. I even buy closeouts and stuff, so we'll have things to give away for raffles and charities. The Giving Saturdays, shopping events for different groups. And that has made our image really strong. People want to shop. People want to patronize businesses they see as being socially responsible, socially responsible, generous, giving, and about something other than just making money. So we have found that getting those messages across has been really big. And I don't know where you want to fit that into the multi-channel marketing, but it's a really important thing, important part of our marketing strategy.
But it is omni-experiential, right? That whole idea of, one of the ways that your customers will experience your brand, the Leon and Lulu brand, is through that. So, and that's why I just sort of brought that up, is because I think it's important to think past how am I selling and think towards how are people experiencing me, because we teach cause marketing just like, what you're talking about there. And if you're a local independent retailer, when people know they can come to your store, they can come to Leon and Lulu and they're going to be supported, that, really cause marketing like Mary Liz is talking about is a tremendous customer acquisition tool. It's just a great way. So not only is it branding, not only does it, make everybody feel good, but, there's always that whole idea of there is, a customer acquisition. That's a great customer acquisition tool, but it's not just a customer acquisition tool, because you get a customer and there's the lifetime value of that customer. So, when we work with independents, it's like, always look at the lifetime value. And that's, to Mary Liz's point, that's where, that's where the money is. That's where the money is. And lifetime value is a direct result of how effectively you build those relationships. You come off as authentic, all the things that we've been talking about this whole time.
So we have about 3 minutes left, so probably not a ton of time for questions, but I do have one question, particularly for Mary Liz and John, on any tips you can give on how you build your email subscription list, because obviously email marketing is huge. And as Bob pointed out, it's way better if they voluntarily sign up because they want to hear from you versus buying a list or doing something a little less authentic. Any tips or advice on how you grow your email list for that marketing?
Well, one of the first things we do is train our cashiers really, really well, because as you check out, we say, are you in our database? And if I check you out, first of all, I'll probably make a mistake, but I'll say, are you in our database? And if you say no, I'll go, let me fix that right now. And they go, oh, okay. Not everybody has the nerve to go for that one, but we explain to them that we don't send them too many emails, that they won't need a receipt to return anything. Everything is in there if they've got an account with us, and they can delete it anytime, but this is how they're going to find out that there's a sale, there's a special, there's a party, there's a charity event. And our rate of capture has been very, very high on that. So we have never purchased or sold a mailing list. All of our names we've received organically. When we opened, we had 263 names. And I will admit that included the PTA and the Homeowners Association and our families.
Yeah.
But since then, all of the people who are on our list are people who have come through our registers, and of course, other retailers.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think I just kind of build on that. Especially the other one is to obviously make sure you're capturing on website, which you should be doing in terms of capturing the email address there. And if you have the register and the website, and then probably most importantly, keep the message relevant. Keep it fun. There's some promotionality into it. Those kinds of things. I think you kind of keep them engaged. But those would probably be the two I would recommend.
So, and
Awesome.
I'll just quickly chime in, having a loyalty program, because if you ask somebody for their email address, that you know, to Mary Liz's point, you know, if they explain it well, you will get a high level of capture. But I think there's a difference between asking somebody for their email address and inviting them to join a loyalty program. So that's, you know, what we found the most effective.
Absolutely. It's a really good point about the loyalty programs. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for joining and participating in our panel. We got so many great pieces of advice, and it was so great to pick your brains. And thank you everyone that joined live. And of course, we'll have this as a recording on our YouTube channel and on our website as well. So you can always revisit it if you wanted to take some more notes or rehear something. You can always get that at giftsanddeck.com or our Gifts and Deck YouTube channel. So thanks everyone so much. Thanks.
Thank
See you at
you.
market.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you at market very
Yeah,
soon.
see you at market.